Hello all and welcome to the Business Continues virtual podcast. My name is Connor Slasberg and I hope everyone is well after the Easter break and ready to tackle week 4/5 of lockdown. Here at the Business Continues virtual Roundtable, we're hoping to put the doom and gloom away and focus on some of the positives within our lives and businesses. Today I am joined by Ben, John, Reemesh, Stuart and Sean. Thank you all for joining me. This week's topic is leadership through adversity, but before we start, it would be great to hear a little from each of you about who you are, what you do, and in an old networking cliche, let's get to know you all a bit better by telling us your first ever job. So we'll start with Sean. Did you want to introduce yourself in the business?
Sure, yeah, so Sean Maher, CEO of Hireful, we help companies recruit better, really by offering software training and advertising solutions. My first ever job was 14 years old, glass collecting in a pub. I stayed there for about 7 or 8 years up to looking after it. But and then my first full-time proper job, if you like, was actually Hireful, formerly EasyWeb, but I was employee number 2, graduate sales. 14 years later, we're 60 big and going strong. So I probably only had one proper job as such, or certainly one company.
Brilliant. No, thanks for the introduction. Ben, we'll go to you.
Hello everyone, Ben Thomas, All Things Management Limited, with the publishers of All Things Business, which is probably what we're most well known for in Northamptonshire and Milton Keynes. It's a monthly business publication that's delivered by the Royal Mail to business owners with a turnover of £250,000 plus. My first ever job was working on the market. So I worked on Wellingborough Market for the curtain man called Lindsay, who was from Malton, and then soon ended up on working on Wembley, Bovingdon, Blackbush on the weekends, selling any bag you like, £2.99, any purse or wallet down the front there. Ding, ding, dong, you can't go wrong. All these goods made in Hong Kong. It was all a bit like that, and I loved every single minute of it. And then my first proper job was working for a telemarketing company called Gem Sales and Marketing. I was employee number 3 there. They're still going, actually. I think they're in Wollaston now. And I worked for Jane Evans. She's the MD. And I joined there at 16, the day after my last GCSE. Finished my GCSEs on the Wednesday and started there on the Thursday.
Brilliant. Cracking. Thanks, Ben. We'll go to Reemesh.
Hi everyone, I'm Reemesh, MD of SK Energy and also CEO of M&M Family Investments. So you probably know me for obviously being a broker in the energy space. We support businesses of all sizes, from startups to multinational companies, procure their utilities better, more efficiently. M&M Family Investments you probably won't know as much.
Retail. We've lost you a little bit there, Reemesh, sorry. We've lost you a little bit.
Can you hear me? Is that better?
Yeah, got you there.
Yeah, so that covers our retail businesses, commercial and residential property markets, and equity investments. That's pretty much the businesses that I cover. My first job started probably in our supermarket.
Can you still hear me, guys? I think it just dropped off again.
Yeah, it just dropped
off, but we've got you there now.
Yeah, so I started off in our first supermarket when I was in my bouncer, and then stacking shelves all the way through to our...
Here is the top.
We keep losing you intermittently, Reemesh, so we'll move on for a second whilst hopefully the connectivity levels out. Go to John Thorpe.
Yeah, no worries.
Thanks. Hello, everybody. John Thorpe, MD of ACS. Our core business is cybersecurity, IT support, telephony, and then we do workplace fit out, interiors. Been doing it 25 years. This is our 25th birthday year. What a year. My first job after the paper round was probably, I was paid to do children's parties dressed as Mr. Wimpy. Quite cool, walking up and down the high street in Manchester city centre.
Old Trafford.
And then I went on to do things like pasty packing in very cold environments and some other jobs before one job, which was a company called Wildings Corporate, before I started ACS with John Harley.
Thank you very much, John. And then last but not least, Mr. Goldwater.
Thank you, Connor, and hello, everyone. Stuart Goldwater, Pragmatic Solutions. We're a technology business based in Milton Keynes, and we design and develop bespoke CRM systems and custom databases, all built on the Microsoft Dynamics platform and across a number of industries. So any industries from charities to membership organisations, professional services, hospitality, etc., etc. My first job was in a pub, a local pub around the corner from where I'm from, in Southport, called the Crown, and I dotted about from bar to pub. I had a stint at McDonald's in between. I actually did 2 years at McDonald's, which is pretty much like dog years working there. So that was quite a long stint. And then I went to sell phones and realised I was a better salesperson than I was at pulling pints, and went into recruitment and ended up starting a technology business shortly after that. So yeah. Bars and pubs originally.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And then I'm Connor Slasberg. I'm a technology consultant at ACS. My first job, believe it or not, was as a sports coach. I was one of the youngest at the time to be level 1 qualified as an FA football coach, and it was much better paying than any pub job I could find. So I threw myself.
Thought you were going to say much better pay than what you're on now.
I'll keep stum on that one. So thank you very much for the introduction, guys. I want to jump into our topic this week, which as mentioned earlier is leadership through adversity. So the last few weeks have seen challenging times for anyone in business, and for managers, directors, owners, I can only imagine tough decisions will have been made. Balancing customer need, business demands and employee well-being will have been a great challenge. So today I just wanted to understand, as business leaders, how you've all found this process, how your businesses have responded to the situation, and how you've really kept your teams going in what's been a struggle for a lot of people. Ben, would you be happy to start on this? Obviously, you've been quite prevalent in the community in the last few weeks, and whilst balancing your own business as well. So how have you found it?
I think everybody. I've described it as having a wobble, and my wobble was 3 weeks ago because I couldn't see the wood through the trees, and that was when I realised that I had to furlough some of the team. And then I think I've shared this actually with you, Stuart, but there was during that week I saw on Twitter, it was a statement from the Ghanaian president, which was almost like a bit of a penny. The penny dropped a little bit. Was that, we do know how to recover the economy. What we don't know is how to recover lives. And that, for me, really just spun the whole situation on its head. And I sort of said to myself, look, this is really all about survival now for us. We've just got to get through these coming weeks and months, and just and rebuild from there, because I don't think there's a business that's going to come out of this pandemic that hasn't been hurt by it. On the employee wellbeing side, the hardest decision. I mean, when you look at the furlough scheme, and I won't go off on that because I've made my thoughts quite clear on the furlough. For those of you people that are watching that haven't heard my thought, the furloughing scheme is flawed for businesses that are probably 5 to 20 employees. If anybody wants to know why, feel free to ring me and I'll tell you. But for me, it was then a case of not wanting to offend any of the team, or the team that I decided that I had to furlough, because we're quite small. There's only 11 of us. But one member in particular, they were feeling it, and they weren't actually going to be furloughed. And then when I had a one-to-one chat with that person, and realised that person was maybe struggling just on a personal level because of things that are happening with the family and some anxiety that was setting in, I then decided just to furlough that individual and explain my reasons why. And they were very grateful. I think it was a bit of a weight off their shoulders. I need that person to just take this period off. Hopefully it's only another 4 or 5 weeks, and then to come back fully refreshed and recharged. But we check in as a company. We check in every morning, every afternoon. We use Zoom. We don't use Microsoft Teams. We use Zoom, and we have a morning chat and we have an afternoon one. and it's about just being there for them. We've got a WhatsApp group as well, so we occasionally have the odd joke that pops around there. I have one-to-one chats with them throughout the week, and it's just trying to do little things just to try and keep that element of normality. I'm quite lucky, really, because they've all got partners or families that they're with. None of them are sort of working at home on their own. Because I think if they were, I know you work on your own, Connor, and I think you're doing a great job, mate. But I think with my guys, I'd be more concerned for the ones that are working at home on their own because they're living and working on their own.
Yeah, it's and I suppose that's one of the challenges with it. Everyone's got such different struggles and challenges, and it's hard to anticipate what people are going through. And I suppose I'm not a manager, I'm not a business leader in that respect, but you've got to. I suppose it's hard trying to deal with it when you don't know what sits in the background, and then also knowing how far you can get involved on that side of things, isn't it? I'd imagine that's a real challenge when you're making the decisions, Ben, like you say, around the furloughing.
Yeah, I've been fortunate. I've got a close circle of other business owners that I can pick up the phone to at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday morning or 8 o'clock on a Sunday night and have conversations and bounce them off. But I do think there are business owners out there that perhaps aren't as fortunate as I to have that sort of close circle of 3 or 4 people that can ring, and that's why I wanted to, come up with the idea of the virtual pub and various a couple of other things that have happened since this pandemic started, just to sort of say to those smaller business owners, you're not on your own. You need to talk to people. We can get through this together. So I think I'm definitely. Don't get me wrong, it's been bloody stressful, and I've got anger. I've got angry, sorry, and I've shed a few tears as well, and I've had some sleepless nights. But I think I'm one of the more fortunate ones, and I don't want this to be doom and gloom, but I do genuinely feel that the next pandemic this country is going to have to deal with on the aftermath of coronavirus, it will be mental health. I think it's going to be a huge mental health ramifications as a result of this.
No, I completely agree. Look, and I'm more than happy to admit, Ben, that we've had a couple of chats about this in private, and the best bit of advice you gave me was that you mentioned just then, that you're doing okay comparative to some other people in different situations, but it's important to let yourself have those moments where actually, if you do feel a bit rubbish, it's okay. Everybody's in their position, and that was, massive advice.
Just to jump in there, it's an interesting point you raised on people and their different situations. I'm like Connor. I'm working and living on my own at the moment. I think what's an interesting point is a lot of people discuss this at the beginning of the pandemic, and even now, and they talk about the virus not discriminating, and there's a very large element of that not being true. But where it definitely does discriminate on everyone's individual personal circumstances and their living circumstances. If you're living in London in a 2-bedroom flat and you've got 3 children, that's very different from if you're a celebrity and you're living in a mansion and you've got a swimming pool and you've got a gym, and so psychologically that's you would argue that's an easier quarantine period to get through. So everybody's circumstances are different, and then you've got to factor in mental health and everybody's individual circumstances and how they're feeling about themselves mentally. And then you actually get, yes, the virus doesn't discriminate, but when you're talking about a prolonged period in isolation and everybody's circumstances, then actually it really does.
Yeah.
It was an interesting bank holiday weekend, seeing on Instagram and Snapchat all the people having the barbecues. I've never been more envious of a garden in my life, but there we go. And that leads quite nicely on to yourself, Stuart. So we've done a few bits and pieces with yourself as well, and got to know you fairly well over the last year, I'd say. Your business kind of in the months leading up to coronavirus, your team expanded quite rapidly, didn't it? And I'd imagine, if this had have hit 3 months ago, you would have had a very different team to manage compared to what you do now. So how are you as a business finding it? How are you coping, and what have you put in place to help?
Yeah, it's been challenging for nearly every business. There's very few businesses that are going to come out of this better than when the pandemic started. There are some, but very few. I think we we've approached it where we're really trying to concentrate on the here and the now and what we can control. So whatever world existed 4 or 5 weeks ago, that's gone. For the first week or two, that was difficult to let that go. You know, we had all these opportunities and we were a growing team, and we were really starting to plan for the next year, 2 years, 3 years. And as businesses and business owners, that's really important that we got those strategic plans in place. So for that first couple of weeks, that was a really difficult transition. And then very quickly, we had to snap out of it and say, that's the old world. That doesn't exist anymore. This is the new world. It might mean that we are a year or 2 years further back than where we want to get to, or it's going to take us a year or 2 years to get to where we want to be right now. But very much just focusing on the positives. What can we do now? What internal projects can we work on? What service offerings have we been saying, actually, we want to develop them, but we haven't had time to do that? What clients have we got who still might want some stuff doing? How can we support our current clients? And that's not necessarily billable work. And also trying to maintain a bit of a positive attitude that there is some business still out there. And I think we need to keep that in mind. And I think there's going to be a period over the next maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks where we move from actually being almost scared to tell people what we do, and scared, is that going to look like we're selling to somebody, and actually move towards, we need to tell people and other businesses about what we do, because everybody's got to start buying from each other, and we've got to start selling to each other, because that's going to kickstart things again. So I think it's been tough, but trying to maintain that positivity and that forward thinking approach and not clinging too much onto the past has been how we've approached it. From an employee well-being side of things, very similar to Ben, keeping in touch with people regularly, team meetings, virtual pubs, coffees, you know, whatever you can do. I think never has there been a more important time to understand the individuals in your team, what makes them tick, keep close to them, and check they're okay, and be there as a level of support for them on a professional level, but also on a personal level as well.
Yeah, and we had a chat last week, didn't we, Stuart? And one of the things I highlighted that I thought was interesting was, in the first week, when everyone's communications were very much corona focused, your business continued the marketing, you know, with along the same lines as you had previously, and the message remained consistent. And I remember saying to you kind of how I perceived that at first, and then looking back, it was actually you just carried on as business as usual. And was that a conscious thing for you when you were pushing out that marketing in the first instance, that you wanted to keep the continuity in how you deliver your message?
We didn't want it to be completely business as usual. I think there were elements to our marketing which we scaled back, and you may not have noticed that, but we did. We just saw a lot of doom and gloom and coronavirus related marketing, and the amount of spam emails I got by businesses telling me what they're doing and how they're reacting to it. And in the end, it just became all encompassing, and we could see that starting very early on. So we definitely didn't want to come across as selling to companies. That wasn't our intention, but educating and, you know, letting businesses know, you know, what we did, and informing them. So our current clients, when there might be license changes or various different changes within the Microsoft ecosystem, informing. So it was half and half, really. We weren't trying to sell, but at the same time, we didn't want it to be all doom and gloom, with the message just being about coronavirus.
No, understood. Apologies if I put that across in the wrong way as well. You knew what I meant. You knew what I meant.
No problem at all.
Sean, so with your business, I remember you were probably one of the first businesses I saw that adopted the complete remote working. I remember you putting a picture very early on of an empty office. So how as a business did you come to that decision so quickly, and how have you found it since?
I don't know how quick in the end things moved quickly anyway. We were just preparing, I think, at the time to do some trial runs, and then we made the call. I think government advice did change fairly quickly, so we made the call fairly quickly to flip to remote from home, working from home, and that was fairly easy anyway, because we already have people in the business working from home. A number of people do that already. I guess for us, if I go back 3.5 weeks, things moved really quickly, where it was Monday, Tuesday, myself and fellow directors were largely stuck in a room for days because we were in huge growth mode. We had some exciting announcements coming, and then suddenly it felt like the rug was pulled. And we spoke to Katie Kern, who I think some of you know Katie, and she gave us some really good advice, because we shout a lot about the good stuff we do. We do loads of nice stuff. We've got a really engaged team, but actually we had locked ourselves in a room for 2 days before. This is whilst we were still in the office, and we had almost stopped communicating. There was people thinking, what's going on? They're starting to read the papers. Key people in the business are in meetings all day. And we spoke to Katie, and she said, forget about all the engagement you've done before. It will mean nothing if you don't communicate properly through the harder times, harder decisions. And so this was before furlough was announced. So we were, we were preparing, ready to make some quite hard decisions. And we spoke to the team on the Wednesday morning, I think it was. We spoke to the team. We had told them it was our last day working in the office. We got them all together. There was positivity there in regards to how we're going to manage and working from home, but there was also some real honesty in that. There's going to be some challenging weeks, certainly weeks ahead and days ahead, decision-wise. By the following Monday, we had furloughed quite a lot of people in the business. We've had 2 rounds of furlough so far. So in recruitment, I'm sure it will come as no surprise, like a lot of industries, it's dropped off a cliff. There's a few industries still recruiting. We're all perm as well, so there's no temp. But a lot of our care companies are still recruiting, some NHS related projects, quite a bit of tech, but still not a lot. So we've gone through 2 rounds of furlough. How we adapt to working from home, we didn't use Teams until literally that week. Now Teams will be a big part of our future. Something I've learned hugely, that the team that we have across the country that work from home, there's 6-7 people. I speak to them a lot. They tend to call me quite a bit. They come into the office once a month. I've never really done video calls with them. Every day we're now doing video calls. In the future will be those that work from home. We will do a lot more video, a lot more face-to-face. And I guess the question for some businesses will be, how much more remote work can they do in the future? Because, I'm sure there'll be some businesses that, possibly don't go back to their offices or for a period of time. But yeah, so the transition to working from home was not too bad. We just try and, like you guys really have said, we try and do regular meetups. We have daily team meetings. We always did 3:00 beers in the office. We now do 3:00 beers on a Friday. So on a Friday we get together and have a beer, and we've tried doing a quiz and tried some different software and stuff. So just trying to keep people engaged, really. Yeah. But it's definitely been a roller coaster.
You had quite a good success with one of your webinars, didn't you? I think, if I remember rightly, correct me if I'm wrong, that was one of your most well-attended webinars or seminars that you've hosted, wasn't it?
I think our strategy, probably a bit like Stuart's really, is we have some existing customers that we can help. We can keep happy, keep helping them, training them on the software, use it as a good time to get them upskilled. And then one area of the business is just free training. So we're doing more webinars than ever, actually. And we're finding sign up levels are higher. Attendance is double what we usually get as well. So we average about 24% attendance. We're getting about 48%. And now one of the things we've been pushing in the last week is the government clarified that those on furlough can be trained as well. So we've been sending regular webinars to our furloughed employees, both what we're doing, but also if we see other people doing some good training, we're sending it to our furloughed employees and saying, look, you don't have to go on this. It has to be voluntary, but if you want to, just because there's a lot, the feedback I've had from my colleagues that are furloughed is some of them are really bored. They want to be doing something. There's only so much gardening to do, and but yeah, the webinars have been great. That's our strategy now, is to add as much value as possible. without a hard sell. But I do again agree with Stuart that there's so much stuff on LinkedIn that says, how can you I'm fed up with people trying to sell during this time, but you still need, you don't need to be selling where it's not relevant or a hard sell, but business needs to continue as well. So you still need to tell people what you're doing and why,
100%. And just for anyone that's watching this back afterwards, Sean mentions he's using Teams quite a lot in his business. He's also using the blur background feature quite nicely to block out that Man United shirt as well. So make sure you're using.
Take it off, Sean. We want to see that.
Reemesh, hopefully second time lucky on the connection. Are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, mate. I've got the joys of not being on your own. I've got 2 boys running around, and the wife's also working from home. She had another call at the same time, and now has just been called into work as a frontline care worker. So she's just darted off. So apologies if I get interrupted again, guys. And hopefully the connectivity will last this time.
Brilliant, no worries. Well, and good on your wife as well. So, SK Energy, how have you guys managed the transition and any good successes to shout in the last couple of weeks?
Well, like anyone and every business, everyone's affected by it. We're no different. We're trying to support all of our clients that we've got, small, large, medium, through the process. We've got a number of clients that are closed for obvious reasons. Certain things they need to do, so we've made sure they're doing them. So supplying meter reads, so they're actually getting billed on actual consumptions rather than estimates, which again could cripple them because the invoice runs will still be going. We're finding it in terms of the team itself, similar to yourselves. We've put a couple on furlough. A lot of our guys are remote as well as head office staff. Bit surreal not going into the offices. So I've got my little boy here as well to come to see what's going on. So it's no different in terms of some of the guys, they work from home and remotely. But yeah, like Sean and some of the other guys on here, we're doing a lot more on Zoom, on Teams, which we never did before. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, good. We've just had a bit of background noise, but we understand it's fine.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
No worries.
So yeah, it's tough, isn't it? I think we're just like any other business and any other leader right now is taking each day as it comes. This is unprecedented times for everyone. And all you can do is make decisions based on the best knowledge you've got at the time and that's accustomed to looking after people. But like with everyone else, I think if you're genuine and honest with your staff, your customers and your supply chain, you're not going to go far wrong because everyone's in the same situation right now, right?
And so we on the episode I did last week, we had John Newsham from Dunor, and we were talking about it in that the energy side of things. Now is actually a really good time for people to be secure in their utilities, isn't it? But you can't go in too heavily with that sell, I suppose, on that. You've got to be careful.
No,
put it across.
When you've got business leaders and everyone who's concentrating on furloughing staff, seeing if their business is going to survive, utilities is important, but is it as important as some of the other stuff? It's a real balancing act. So what we're finding as well, yes, it's a good time to purchase your gas, especially because it won't have it's made mainstream news, but the tension between Russia and OPEC caused the gas price to fall off the cliff. But is it the right time right now with the pandemic? It's a real balancing act on how to do it. Also, what we're finding is suppliers aren't taking on a fair few suppliers are changing their policies daily in taking any new business on. So it's a real balancing act right now on how to make it work. But there is some positives out there. The team are still closing new business as well as renewing clients that we've already got. So it's not all doom and gloom, but yeah, you just got to take each day as it comes, I guess.
No, fully understood. And to go to my boss, Mr. Thorpe. So obviously I've seen firsthand. I'm just going to mute you for a second, Reemesh, if that's all right. But you can unmute yourself at some point if you need to speak. There we go. John, so I've seen firsthand, obviously, a lot of the changes you've made, and I know how many meetings have been happening between directors. But how have you found this process, and what have been the biggest challenges for you in delivering those messages?
Well, I'd say it's been so brutal. It is brutal, and it's going to continue to be brutal. I can't sugarcoat it. that is what it's going to be. But I have to say, what we've had to do is just be totally transparent. We've always had a culture of no surprises, so we're pretty open book anyway. But we've been totally, and I would take your feedback, but trying to be as transparent, as honest with every employee, from the warehouse, back office, sales, engineers, just brutally honest, just totally transparent. And you'll see we've been doing that through in Teams. There's not a day that goes by without messages going out, the guys talking. They feel they're connected, whether they've been furloughed or not. We furloughed.
Oh, you've gone a bit quiet there, John. Sorry.
Have you still got me, Connor?
There we go. Yeah, I can hear you better now.
I was saying we furloughed several of the installers, several of the back office functions, the interiors division. We're lucky that we're in IT services, so a lot of clients have asked for extended cover. A lot of clients have said they can't pay us. So it's we've got two extremes there going on. We've got some clients who want more, some clients who can't pay. All we're trying to do in ACS is just do what we've always done, which is just communicate, be transparent. It's different. There's not many leaders that have been here before. In a recession, I would argue. I've done two. I started working in a recession, and at least you know how long things are going to predominantly last. This one is a bit more known. What I would say, Stuart said to me this morning. Can you hear me okay, Connor?
Yeah, got you. It was breaking up a little bit, but you're all right.
My daughter asked me this morning again around rainbows. She's only 9. I said, but after the rainbows, I says, after every storm, and I do believe you've got to find those silver linings. So we've been lucky. Are we lucky? No, we let's not kid ourselves. The supermarkets have got 2 markets. Yeah, the government are running at a speed they've never run before, which is unlike, you could argue, our government. I've got friends in recruitment, and where they're aligned to those government sectors, they do okay. Yeah, friends who are taking their business more online with social media, with more marketing activities. I know ACS have been looking at more e-procurement tools because we've got a bit more time to take breath, look at what silver linings are available to us. So I think it's tough. I can't sugarcoat it, Connor, and you're living it with us every day.
Yeah.
But you've just got to make the decisions at the right time. Furloughing one business is total opposite to another business, depending on the sector they're in. My brothers are in the food industry, as you could argue, and they're flat out. It's like Christmas. So, let's not kid ourselves that things are still happening. They are. And if we can align ourselves quickly, be agile, there may be opportunities for our businesses that we weren't thinking about before. Yeah. That's how I have to find positivity every day. And I have to look hard at how I can help on the government contract that we're on. I can help accelerate our cybersecurity learning. I can help do more virtual designs for clients' offices where we used to meet them face to face. Now we use Teams to do that virtually. So I think it's, I can't sugarcoat it. It is tough, but we will come out of this, and we will come out, as I say, in good health is as good as you could look for. So if we could come out in good health, a lot of us will probably be taking more debt with the C-bills and everything else. And now they've launched for the larger enterprises, more loans available for them. So whilst we might have debt in our businesses coming out of this, one would hope Business UK PLC will still trade through and be good when we come out. Yeah.
If I can add in there, Connor, as well.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
The one I do think, and I'm sure the other gents will back me up on this as well, the one thing when you talk about staff and well-being and the togetherness, 100%. I mean, I knew I had a superb team before this pandemic started, and everything they've given me and shown me during the last 3 weeks has just been above and beyond. I mean, you all know Fraser, for example. His wife gave birth on Friday, Good Friday, to little Teddy, £7.14. And he sent me a message last week. He went, we've got this analogy with football. You'll like this, Stuart. He calls me Jurgen. I call him Bobby, as in Firmino. Because he puts the ball in the back of the net for me. And he said, I just got a text message, Jurgen, I don't want to go on paternity. I'm not leaving you to climb this mountain on your own. And when you've got staff members that are, and the rest of the team, they've all done something individually that's either a message to me or done something in a team meeting, and I know, and that almost gives me more desire than ever to get through this, because I couldn't ask for a better team to be behind me.
That's a great analogy Ben uses there, Connor. That's a great analogy of climbing that mountain. It's climbing a mountain. Some of your colleagues are gonna run out of oxygen at times going up that mountain, but that is the togetherness that everybody who's in the trenches still, with you need, and you to really help you and help your colleagues who've been furloughed as well. It's a real time for people to show up. It really is.
I see a lot of people talking about, communication at the moment. We've never been further apart, but we've never been closer at the same time. So, I mean, Stephen mentioned it a couple of weeks ago when he joined us about how, we as a business at ACS, we've used Teams for a while, but we didn't necessarily use it to its full capacity. And this has forced us to look at how we do that and make sure we communicate more and more frequently. And I think, especially across divisions in the business, we're talking more than we ever have. And Ben mentions Fraser there. So, I mean, I'd never spoken to Fraser before all of this. I'd seen the work he does, and I'd planned on having a proper chat with him, but I never had. And in the last couple of weeks, Fraser's probably been one of the people I've spoke to most. And it's not just one-to-ones and within the networking. It's Fraser giving me a call just to check how I am, just having a chinwag about how we're getting on. And, I've met a lot of new connections off the back of this, because people do want to just have a chat and try and find normality where they can.
I just echo that, Connor. I've made more phone calls this morning than I make in a normal working week if I was in the office. Yeah. And I think, we should all do that, not just to colleagues, not just to clients, but to, friends, family, everybody. And you'll find you have much deeper conversations with your clients if you pick up the phone to them as well, because we're not going to sell, we're going to support, we're going to help, we're going to empathize, we're going to do all those things we will do as human beings. Yeah. And they'll remember that when we come out the other side of this, they will. And people got good memories. I can go back to the recession of 2008, and I spoke to the gentleman on Thursday last week who helped ACS through the recession of 2008, and he's still on, phoned him up just to get a steer from him on how he saw the IT market at a much bigger level than ACS playing at currently. Yeah. So that phone is critical.
Yeah. I think the ATB arms, Ben, that you set up as well has been brilliant. So I've not really had any dealings with yourself and most people that are on there, to be honest. I just seen it on LinkedIn, and the first time I went on it was the first one, which was 3.5 weeks ago. Yeah. So it was probably a week where there was a lot of uncertainty. There was a lot of business owners that were probably in a fairly low worrying place, and I went on there thinking, what, I'll go on there. And I think I've been working from home for a couple of days, but it'd all been really, whilst in recent weeks I've been speaking to plenty of people. In that week I didn't speak to a lot of people, to be honest. It was speaking with my fellow directors, and that was largely it. And I went on to your webinar, and it was just nice to know you're not alone. see some smiling faces. You managed to get smiles out of everyone, which was pretty impressive. Yeah, and I just thought, and also took some ideas away from it actually. So, and I've been back on a couple of times since. I'm pretty quiet. I don't always say a lot, but certainly things like that are, I think, really important. And yeah, so well done with that.
Thank you, John.
Sorry, Stuart, go on.
Yeah, no, I've been very similar to what John said there. You know, back to back all day on calls and video calls now. I'm trying personally to avoid picking the phone. Sometimes you do, but I'm trying to book video calling because I want to see people. You know, I'm here and I'm working on my own. I actually want to see people, and that's helped massively. And I think John, you did right, and you mentioned something about this, Connor, in one of your posts. I think that how suppliers and customers treat each other during this period is hugely important and will be remembered 100%. So I'm having a lot of calls where we're not talking about what I do or what they do, just generally, how is business? How are you personally? How are you getting through it? How's your family? How are you dealing with isolation, etc., etc.? And that's been really good for me as well. But what I think is interesting, if we start to look forward and when we come out of this, is how much is this? Is there going to be a permanent change in the way that we sell and interact and our relationships? Because I personally think that there will always be that need for the face-to-face relationships and meeting up with a customer and looking them in the whites of their eyes. But I also think that those initial meetings that you're having, where you might be driving 45 minutes one way, 45 minutes back, you're building in half an hour buffer, and then you're having an hour meeting, which could be condensed into 30 minutes, including the cost of the petrol and the time at the office and everything like that. Are we going to start moving those meetings to, you know, an initial video call on Teams or Zoom? And, you know, a customer figuring out, do I actually, you know, want to buy from this supplier? And a supplier figuring out, is this an opportunity for me? And me personally, I think that could be a change that's here to stay. But I'm just interested to get everybody else's thoughts on that.
I think so. John, shout me down if you don't think this is right, but I certainly, I've had this conversation already, and I see the face-to-face meeting almost becoming a transitioner. That moment where you go, right, there's something here, let's then move to that face-to-face meeting. And I think that the industry we're in, we've got two different points on this. So from the IT perspective, we've got the technology that underpins all of this fantastic change and all of this remote working. But then in the office side of things, you ask about how the work environment's going to be after this. I definitely think there's going to be more remote working, but I think an office is going to become critical, and it's going to become the place that reinforces your business culture. You might work from home 3 days a week, but you go into that office to remind you why you work for that business, the values of that business, the people you work with. Sitting here at the screens, you know, I could be typing away, but you don't necessarily have the same affinity and that same touch point with the culture and the values of your business as you do when you're sat in it. So I think that becomes, rather than looking at it as the office becomes less important, it might be less frequented, but it becomes just as important to make sure that we're all fighting for the same cause and understand what we're doing from a business perspective. Is there anyone else that's got a follow-up to? Can
I add to that? Because I think I agree with some points of what you both said there, but I've probably and this has really only dawned on me over the last sort of 24 hours. If you 100%, the way that business is done going forward is definitely going to be changed. And I think Stuart's analogy there of maybe going out, and I'm victim of this. I used to book out my meetings on a Tuesday and a Thursday. That's where I'd be at. I wouldn't be in the office at all. And I'd have my 2 or 3 meetings in Northamptonshire. And then if I need to go down to Milton Keynes, I'd perhaps have a couple of meetings there. That can all definitely be done over the phone. Done on Zoom calls or Teams, yeah. And I want to use that, and that's also from an environmental perspective. I think that's better as well, without a doubt. But just to put it into perspective, this has been the biggest experiment on remote working, and we've been forced into it. And I think time will tell if it's actually been successful. The one thing that we have been successful in this country is just getting on and doing it. But that's what Brits are great at doing. Stay calm, just get it done, carry on. And that's one thing that we just do amazingly well. It's just something that's in our DNA. But just to put it into perspective, gents, you know, this is circa rough figures. There's 26 million people that work 9 million, they reckon, have been furloughed. So, you know, I think it's too early to say how much of an effect or how much remote working will go on, because I do think that there will be people that would definitely be able to do a day or two away from the office, which will have its own benefits. But to pick up what you said, Connor, as well, that togetherness and that team morale and that it's just that the team togetherness and morale, I think, for me, and it will differ from company to company and sector to sector, but for me, that's still going to be such an important part of everyday business.
I do agree with Ben there. I do agree on both points. I've been saying for 2 years, Connor, work's what we do, not where we go. Yeah, work's what we do, not where we go. And I do believe spend time at home working, focused time, I get more done than I do in the office.
Yeah.
And I think out the back of this, there'll be more organisations now, leaders who've been reluctant to change, will now think, you know what, I'm going to allow this autonomy. I'm going to allow my colleagues to get on and do, to use Ben's point. I'm just going to allow those things to be done. And I don't care where you are. I care about you as an individual. I don't care whether you're in Starbucks, the Marriott, or at home. It's, you know, I just think that people will adopt a more flexible approach to working now, where leaders have tried to hold on to people in the workplace. I think that will definitely be relaxed when we come to the other side of this.
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well, guys. And if I could add to it, I think it's different spectrums as well, isn't there? You've got your small businesses, your medium and your large. Now, I think with the shift change of everyone being forced to work from home and remotely, they've embraced it where they can. You've got head office costs as well, which are still going to be a cost to many businesses, and whether they can sustain those or whether, because of this shift change and this actual experiment, as we call it, people will embrace that and maybe actually get rid of the head office. I'm a big fan of having a head office operation. I know John is, of having that collision zone as he often brings into meetings, right? I think that banter level and everything like that, the support. But I think with this pandemic and all the experiences we've all had, don't we just appreciate each other a bit more? Not just as businesses, not just clients, but our work colleagues, our family. I've got several businesses that I'm involved in, and we're still on the front line. Our retail operation, we're probably busier than we've ever been on a normal day. Now, again, echoing what Ben said earlier and some of the other guys as well, it's your team. You learn so much more about the team and the players you've got. Not a single one of our retail staff have called in sick. Not a single one has said they don't want to work or be on the front. They're there because we've got the right people in the right business doing the right jobs in the first place. And I think a lot of credit has to go to the British way of doing things, right? And I think with this, business has changed fundamentally and will change going forwards every day, and our lives have changed. But as Ben said, we do what the British people always do, is get on with it. Each day as it comes, keep fighting through the good fight, and you'll all come through it with a bit of support. And having the ATB arms and things like that, I think that plays a massive part in it, keeping everyone's well-being in the forefront and keeping in touch with teams, right?
100%. I think with the ATB arm stuff, and we'll bring that part to a close. But I just want to say as well with that, I've spoke to Ben about it at length and the value it adds. Just before we jumped on this today, I was speaking to Sean about escapism, which I think is really important at the minute, because I don't know what you gents find, but I find with every conversation, no matter how much you try and keep it away from the topic, it always kind of reverts back. Whereas when we do the ATB arms, it's just half an hour of fun, and it's half an hour where you don't have to get bogged down with the thought of that topic. We just go in there and we have a laugh, and it gives everyone that opportunity just to kind of, one, meet new people, two, I don't want to say switch off, because there's some good conversations that go on in there, but to just forget about the troubles of the world, have a drink with everyone, and have some good fun.
And Connor, that was the complete objective for that. because it was only a matter of time before people would do other similar things, if you like. And there's, you know, Northamptonshire, Milton Keynes, there's plenty of stuff that's going on there. But there needed to be one that was just fun. There needed to be one where people could switch off, because we have to switch off. And you know, there's a couple of people on there that I've never even met. Well, actually, there's a few people that I've never even met. Sean's one of them, and he's going to be one of the first people that I'll go and buy a beer when this is all over, face to face, and have a cuddle with, providing social distances is acceptable, Sean. And you're not wearing that Man United shirt. But there's him, and there's Victor, and there's a lady called Lindsay that works for a VR company, and two or three of them. This is what I'm about to say now doesn't include Sean. It was Lindsay in particular. She works for a VR company in Milton Keynes, and she's on her own. And she was self-isolating before we went into lockdown. So, you know, she's had like 4 weeks where she hasn't had interaction with an adult, you know, or adult community, if you like. And it's for, you know, it's for people like, well, it's for all of us really, just to come together.
Brilliant. And,
You've done a good job with that. Really good job.
Well, roll on the real one when we get rid of this virtual one, and we just got to decide on a location. But you mark my words, either the first or second Thursday after lockdown, we're all getting together properly. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I look forward to that, Ben.
I'll make sure I'll put a little link I'll tag Ben in for anyone that watches this afterwards. So if you do have any questions about it, fire them over to Ben.
So just to end on this point, Connor,
no, it's fine.
So I read there was a report done by Gartner out in America last week that was about I think it's actually called the future of the real estate, which sort of come on to your point there, Reemesh, about, you know, what happens with head office operations, more aimed at the big corporates. But is this a way where, you know, people that are employing 5,000 people can look at a facility that holds 2,000 on the basis that the people are going to work remotely, either 50% of the time? And it's a really interesting document. And because Gartner have come out and said it, generally speaking, you know, the UK follows probably 18 months, 2 years afterwards. So I'll share that with you, Connor, and then you can maybe put it out with this video.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. Thank you, and thank you all for kind of talking us through how you've led your businesses through the first couple of weeks of this. At least I think I'm conscious I've booked you guys out for an hour and we might be about to run over, but I just wanted to open up the table. If anyone's got a quick question to anyone else or something they wanted to throw out to the table, whether it's corona related or not, you've got the opportunity now if anyone wants to throw one out. Ben will speak up too quick. I'll tell you what, I'll ask the same question we had last week. We've talked about your businesses and your teams and what you've done there. The question we had last week from Anya from Northampton Saints was extremely simple question. John, you've touched on it already, but it's just, how is everyone? And putting away the business side of things at the minute and your concerns to your teams, how is everyone in themselves at the moment? Anyone want to throw their answer in for that?
I'll throw my answer in. I think it's interesting because I've been thinking a lot about leadership during this period, and then it's how much is leadership also about leading yourself and making sure yourself and your own well-being is in shape, because that's going to allow you to lead your team effectively. I think it's definitely tough. You know, everybody's got different circumstances. You, like me, Connor, you know, we're living on our own, and I find the lack of human interaction face to face very tough. Personally, how I've approached it is exercising a lot. I haven't touched a drop of alcohol, which I think this is the longest I've ever been without drinking since I was younger. That's just how I've dealt with it personally, and trying to stay positive and stick to a schedule and a routine. Yeah. And try to stick to that as much as possible. But I'm okay, but it is tough. It's definitely a tough period that we're all going through.
100%. Anyone else want to throw their hat in on that one?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I think for myself, professionally, probably more determined than ever to get through this and learn from it and push on. Personally, pretty good. I'm constantly doing things, so being stuck in the house is quite a new feeling, but I'm enjoying catching up. Every morning I do exercises on Skype and WhatsApp with the nieces doing their Joe. We've got a weekly quiz going on. We've got I've got friendships that we catch up with every week, and probably more. So I've got friends. I've got a really good school friend in Leeds in Chicago. We don't even speak that much, yet we're speaking. It's taken this for us to be speaking every week, So I'm actually, communicating with people a lot more than what I normally would. Thinking about friends who are on their own as well, making a bit more effort there. So and that's what gives me a bit of a boost, really. I love all that, and then I think that does lead into work. Then that as leaders, we do have a role and responsibility to lead from the front. And if we're coming in quite not positive, not with the right attitude, how can we expect our the team to have that as well? So that's quite important to me, really. But yeah, no, largely in a good place. The sun helps, and routine, I think, as well. I don't usually work to quite a routine, but I found that really works for me. Getting into a bit of a routine. I'm wearing the Hireful t-shirt, not to plug for this, because actually I find that I've got 3 of these, so 3 days a week, really. I put this on. I'm still wearing tracksuit bottoms every day of the week, but it kind of works for me. It just gets me in the right headspace. A bit of exercise in the morning, get ready, and I've got my 10 o'clock meeting with the team, and that kind of keeps me sane. So not too many low points, but they do happen because there's obviously a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I think we're all human, aren't we? We're all going to have low points, and I guess I've got a whole new appreciation. I always liked and appreciated teachers and the nursery care workers, but having 2 kids as well as running the businesses and spending more time with the wife has its plus points and downsides as well, guys. I'm sure some of you can relate to that. But yeah, in most cases, yeah, I'm happy. Like similar to what's been said already. Try and keep a routine. Try and go for walks and do the exercising and keeping the social distancing. I guess slightly differently because I do get on the front line as well with the shops, get out there and making sure we're safe. But we've had to put some spit guards and stuff like that in place, which is something we've never done. But yeah, similar to Sean, keep in touch with people.
Reemesh, did you say spit guards?
Yeah.
Say that. Yeah.
That's what they're called now, aren't they? That's what the builders called them.
I thought you were going to call them like customer screens.
Stick guards. That's how I know it. Forget that. You know me, I've got a spade. But yeah, interaction, I think, has been the key to this. Making sure, don't underestimate the value of your network, I guess. Just people you can pick up the phone to. Ben alluded to it earlier. We all have a wobble. We'll all have times where we're low, but being able to speak to people, pick up the phone, pick each other up, I think that's helped me get through this. We're human just like anyone else, right? And like we said, if we're not motivated or we're not in the right place, then how are we effective for our team and our businesses?
Yeah. I've had a wobble. I'm not going to say that I'm incredibly it's a real difficult one because sometimes it's like the old chimp, John. You've got this one here saying, "Don't worry, you're going to get through." Can you see me?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. I got the chimp here saying, "Come on, Ben. You're going to get through this." And September the 1st is the deadline. And I don't know about you guys, but I operate a paper manual as well as a Google diary. Sorry, a paper diary as well as a Google diary. And I set myself little messages that I write. And September the 1st, I've written one. Are the good times back yet, Ben? And I've got this chimp here on my shoulder saying, Ben, don't worry, we just got to get through this period. It's going to be fine. And I've got this one here going, bloody hell, Ben, what happens if the portal isn't set up in time with HMRC? What happens if the first furlough payment doesn't come through? And then I've got this one here as well. And it is a bit of a balancing act. Thorpe has been fantastic because he's one of those people that I look up to and he inspires me, and he's one of those people that I can ring up on a Sunday night or a Monday morning if I need to. And I've got a few other people as well that when this chimp gets in my head, I need to get rid of him, so I have to ring somebody to help me get rid of him. But I do, I'm probably working harder now than I ever have done in terms of the number of hours that when I come down. I've got a 1-year-old Rocco, and what's been lovely is the 5 of us, me, my 2 girls, and my wife, and Rocco, have been able to spend time together. And I've never spent as much time, because usually I leave the house before they're awake, and then I come in about an hour before they're going to bed. So that's been lovely. But it's a challenge. It definitely ain't all smooth sailing, but, you know, not to sugarcoat it, as Thorpe said earlier, but at the same time, quoting the Ghanaian president earlier, Prime Minister, you know, we've got to be, life is over everything, and family is over everything, and we can rebuild businesses and we can rebuild clients. We need to look after our staff and we need to look after each other, and if we could do that, then the good times will be back. It's just a question of when.
Yeah,
John,
I agree with that.
anything to add on that?
I think it's been said, hasn't it? Health first, you know, and then control the controllables. And what Ben's saying there is we can't control the time this is going to last. We can't control. What we can control is our actions, picking up the bloody phone, phoning colleagues, phoning friends, phoning family, empathizing, understanding, and God, taking your hat off to those girls and boys on the front line, because I tell you, you've got boys and girls on the front line doing 25-hour shifts at the moment, and I think, God, have I got it tough? No, I haven't. Not tough when you see what those people are doing for us. And so the least we can do is to show up for every one of our colleagues and family and friends, because what those girls and boys are doing is proper work.
Well said.
Yeah,
Very well put. Very well put. Well, look, chaps, thank you very much all for joining me. Fantastic chat there, and some amazing bits and pieces mentioned. Ben, if you can send us through that Gartner review that you mentioned, I'll make sure there's a link that goes out onto that one. Next week, for the roundtable, I'm going to do a topic on love your business, and we'll have some new faces joining us for that topic as well. What John just mentioned leads onto this perfectly. Every week I like to try and highlight a good cause or something I've seen that's worthwhile giving a shout out in this session. And I saw Nick Rees of Jackson Grundy shared earlier on a Scrub Up for Northants NHS fundraiser, where they've got some seamstresses doing all of the creating all of the clothing and PPE, I believe it is. Nick, I apologise if I've got that wrong, but a very worthy cause, and I'll make sure that Nick's tagged in this and that the relevant links are put there if anyone wants to donate towards that. There aren't many areas that are worthwhile more at the moment us putting our attention to if we can. And then for anyone watching this back, if you have any topics you'd like to see or you'd like to be part of the roundtable at any point, please comment, drop me a message. Otherwise, thank you very much to you gents for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll speak to everyone next week. Take care. Thank you.
Cheers,
Thanks
guys.
for that.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.